Hello, everyone, and welcome in. It's Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. I can feel it already. We haven't even kicked off the show, and we're in for a shit show for two reasons. A, I'm already fucking amped up right even before we start this, so that always makes things more entertaining. But B, at some point I can tell I'm going to have to get up and grab myself a snack because I can feel myself getting loopy because of low blood sugar. So we combined me all amped up with the pending crash of my blood sugar, and this might go right off the fucking rails. So
Nice.
It's going to be a good one. Stay tuned. Wear a helmet.
We are ready.
So here we are, NFL Week 7. It's Week 7 already. These weeks are blending together, like I've said a few times. My content, right when we finish our Sunday sit-start show and kickoff starts, I'm into next week already. So these weeks blend together. That's how we've had a few times where I've been sitting there, I'm talking like, oh, the Patriots, they're a great matchup this week. And I'm going, fuck, that's next week. I'm too far ahead. So it's all blended in together, and how we're at Week 7, I don't even know. But here we are, NFL Week 7, NFC home games. Because we're starting with Thursday, which is Saints and Jags. How's it going, guys? I got Jesse. I got Jeremy. How's it going?
It's going good. I'm just looking at some interesting articles right now, actually, as we speak. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into this matchup, and particularly the Thursday night one, because we got some boom matchup for these running backs, and it should be a lot of fun. And
yeah,
I'm ready.
And you mentioned it could be a shit show, but good thing the schedule is cooperating. Oh wait, Bipocalypse is upon us. Can't wait to discuss this 4 games that are happening in the NFC this week.
We discussed this yesterday, how it was amazing. It's like every single, we came off of the worst injury week we've had in a long time, and you pair that with possibly the fucking biggest bipocalypse of the season, and it's like it just came to absolute total ridiculous shit show where I've seen trades in my league where I've gone through and it's like, oh, that's ridiculous. Why would he make that trade? And then I look and it's like, well, he needed to trade this guy because he needed those 4 guys because he had no one to play. I was listening to FFT earlier, and Heath Cummings was saying that he's had leagues where he just doesn't know what to do because he'll have a league where he's got 5 bench spots and all 5 of them are out or on bye, but they're not IR, but they're not players he can drop. So it's like starting just ridiculous players, and it's getting kind of crazy. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, guys? You got a lot of crazy things here, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to try and swat this around and fill out for me here because I have to go in the other room to get like a chocolate bar or something.
Yeah, go for it. You're fine.
You have a dead host, so fill air for me, guys.
Well, these are the choices we have to make, right? Because I've got my keeper home league where Justin Jefferson and Achane are out, and they're holding down my 2 IR spots, right? So I have 2 IR spots, right? We have 2 keepers. It makes total sense. But we have small benches, 6 bench spots. And I've got Pollard, Chase, and Dell on bye, who would have been out anyway. I'm trying to hold down 2 defenses because the Browns have a good matchup this week, but the Saints are looking really good in future weeks. And then I got Herbert, who I don't really want to drop. And then I got McLaughlin, who I'm holding on to. Yeah. But I'm currently starting Craig Reynolds and Roshan, both of whom probably aren't going to play. So I don't know what to do. Right? Do I drop these guys? Look, do I drop?
Yeah, I mean, you got to, right?
You do.
You can't just you got to do that's the thing that sucks. And I think you saw it in the Dynasty Lounge, but one of the guys was commenting, should I trade Justin Jefferson for just Jonathan Taylor, 2 first-round picks? And I'm like, are you contender? Are you trying to fucking win or not? Sometimes we get stuck with holding these guys, right? And I'm like, dude, the end goal is winning. I don't care. I was like, fucking do that deal. That makes your team so much better. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And the other guy couldn't understand why I was like, no, you take that deal, man. So it's interesting. And yeah, something if I'm in your situation, I'm cutting McLaughlin, adios, my friend. I'll cut Tank Dell if I have to. I'll make moves so I can survive. But
yeah, but for Michael Mayer, for Royce Freeman,
Oh, not Royce Freeman. Oh,
we got
Michael Mayer's
a
about
couple
to
of
break
options.
out.
They're not good options, but they're options.
I don't mind like gambling on Mayer this week. The usage is up. It's still speculative. It's not like a hit, right? But it sucks. Like this is why I picked up Darrell Henderson like basically everywhere because he was free and cheap, and I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen to that LA backfield. Maybe it works out. Maybe it's Freeman. Maybe it's Zach Evans. Maybe it's freaking some other guy over there. But
Miles Gaskin.
Yeah, I know my buddy's a big UW guy, so he's like, I'm totally biased, but Gaskin's the best running back there. I'm like, no, he's not. But yeah, you're definitely biased.
He could be though, but he could be because they all suck.
They need a trustworthy guy, and obviously it's not Zach Evans. So, and he's not a pass catcher, so they need a pass catcher. So yeah, we don't know how it's gonna work out.
I tell you, man, in more than one league I have, it's getting tense between buys and injuries. Trading, I don't know. I've got a couple of like my longest running dynasty leagues where I don't know if people are just we've been in the leagues too long, but shit's getting tense where you're getting people just sending absolute fuck you offers as counter. I have to put out a few PSAs today of like, why can't we act like adults? Like you'll send guys where they send out, a trade where it's, this guy needs to fill a void. So, send him a guy who, like one was Michael Thomas for like a second and a third. And it's like the guy countered with, why the fuck would I send a second and a third for Michael Thomas? Okay, well, he's probably a middling receiver, but you need to fill buys. So, okay, I get it if you don't want the trade, but you could probably just reject. You don't have. So he's counter with something like CD Lamb and Kyler Murray for like Michael Gallup and a fourth round picker. So it's just an absolute ridiculous counter offer. And it's like, why can't we just behave like adults? But you just get into the point where you really see just ridiculous.
I'm starting Ezekiel Elliott in the league, and that should tell you all you need to know about how this week is looking. So I was looking at all these playoff roster I have, and I go, fuck, I got to play Elliott. I was like, I don't have another option. It's just
you guys are going to get to watch me do something professional, and that's eat a bag of chips live on the air because I get where I'm so focused, I get tunnel vision, and I'll sit there and I'm not diabetic, but I will get so focused where it's like I'm working and I'm like, wow, I'm starting to get kind of dizzy and see stars, and it's like, oh, I haven't eaten in 28 hours, so maybe I should go have a bag of chips. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm doing some prep for the show and I'm trying to get my rankings done and I'm bringing up this and I'm sitting there and I'm going, we're in the pre-show lobby and I'm like, I'm not feeling so great. Oh, I haven't eaten since breakfast on Tuesday. It's like, yeah, I should eat. So I guess we should get ready to the shit show before I render myself unconscious. What did we say? Jags and Saints. Ooh, that's
see Aaron pass out on screen like
I did this one in my Survivor breakdown, where I don't really understand this. And one of the things I noted was that I believe by game time, I don't know what the line's at now, if it's changed, but when I did this one yesterday, the line was Saints by 1. I don't understand that. The Saints aren't first place in what might be the worst division in professional football. I don't get it. The Jags are a decent team, so that was my pick for the underdog there, for an underdog. I went and I like the Jags, but I guess we'll get started here. We have almost said Travis Etienne at quarterback because he's listed top here because he's been the highest scoring player. But we have Trevor Lawrence against Derek Carr. Lawrence, I know, is questionable. It seems like it's going to be a game time decision. I am playing him if he starts. It's not a great matchup. I know the Saints are a tough secondary. It's bottom 10. For Derek Carr, it's the 5th best. I'm still starting Lawrence as a mid to low end QB1. Derek Carr's probably a high end QB2 for me this week. So, I'm certainly not avoiding him either. But what are your thoughts here on these two?
The Saints line is in shambles right now. They're missing 3 of their 5 starters. They're bringing back Penning. He got benched last week and he's coming back from an injury, but it's going to be rough for them to move the ball on the ground. And Jamal Williams is supposed to be back, but Kamara's been super inefficient running. They don't really have a good running back they can trust. So I'm expecting them to heavily feature Kamara in the passing game because they're going to have to, just because they got basically a shell of an offensive line this week. So I'm not really looking forward to Derek Carr this week. I think it could be trouble under constant pressure. And then on the other side, it's Lawrence dealing with his knee injury, right? So it's just as good as it seems. I'm a little skeptical of both these quarterbacks this week. They're low end QB1, high end QB2 for me this week, where I'm kind of forced into starting them, but I don't want to play them if I have a better
They're
option.
actually 16 and 20 for me, but
yeah.
if I find out Lawrence is going to play, I might bump him up a bit. Like, I hate the matchup. I don't want to face the Saints.
Yeah,
I think Lawrence is good enough to get over. Like I said, Carr, I don't hate the matchup. I don't like the quarterback. So they're both actually, for me, like I said, they're both low-end QB2s, mid to low-end QB2s, but I think I'll give Lawrence a bit of a bump if he actually plays.
That's
Jesse, or Jeremy, sorry.
Yeah, and the Jags aren't super scary on defense. They can rush the passer for sure, but I think the Saints are going to figure it out. Like you said, I'm not excited to play either of these guys, but would we really be surprised if Derek Carr outscores Trevor Lawrence? Not that he's going to be a top 5 option or anything. But yeah, if you have to play these guys, I don't have a real problem with it. I'd prefer Carr over Lawrence slightly. That said, I think this game is going to be a lot lower scoring than we might have thought it would be a month ago. So,
for future reference there, Jeremy, be a professional. When you're doing a breakdown and you can still see my mic's muted and I'm chewing, that means keep talking. Find a way to keep bullshitting.
Yes, and I also just wanted to say that fuck you. Okay.
I can hear you, and I'm chewing. I'm going, oh no, Jeremy's about to wrap up his breakdown, and I'm still chewing these.
You start to eat fast, yeah.
I'm sitting there going, come on, Jeremy, come on. I'm chewing as fast as I can, but come on, Jeremy, help me out here, man.
Future reference, Aaron, don't take a bite. Don't take a chip. Don't put a chip in your mouth when we're talking Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence.
It's must-see content.
There wasn't an extensive breakdown coming. You're saying that I should have known
No.
that? Damn. All right. Well, let's talk about the running backs. Both of them at this point are must starts. I think ETN's probably a top 5. It's a terrible matchup for ETN, second worst. It's the 8th worst matchup for Kamara. I don't care. I think I'm starting both of them. Let's see where I have them ranked. I think I have ETN. I have ETN at 5. I have Kamara at 9. I don't much want any backup unless you. I mean, in this point in time with all the buys, you might be forced into it. I've heard Jamal Williams intends to play, but having said that, looking through, I don't think I have either of the backups in the top or any of the backups. At Kendre Miller at 51. So I think if Jamal Williams plays, I have him at 59. I'll probably bump him up, but I don't really want to start anyone besides the starters, and they're must starts. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, Tank Bigsby has just been such a disappointment from a usage perspective and from whatever we've seen on the field perspective as well. So you can't blame the Jags for not really playing him, so you can't play him. And then on the other side of the ball, I don't care that Jamal's back unless I see that he gets a heavy workload, which is unlikely with this front. And Jesse mentioned the line issues. No way. Give me Kamara slightly over ETN, but I agree. I'll start both of them and no one else.
I'm gonna have to
You done eating? You done eating, Aaron?
I'm gonna shut up. I have to clip your last comment there, and I think it might be an elite GIF. If I can turn it into a GIF for you to reply to people on Twitter for future reference, go fuck yourself.
That would be so good.
I'm going to clip this and send it to you so you can just reply to people with, for future reference, go fuck yourself. Sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
My bad. Yeah, so the only worry for me with Kamara is if they give Jamal Williams that goal line work because, that's kind of his thing, right, and what he's been doing, what he's been known for. But he was super inefficient last year, and he's behind a shit offensive line this week, so don't play Jamal Williams. You're just asking for trouble if you don't get a touchdown. He's going to have, 5 carries for 5 yards and maybe a touchdown if he's lucky. It's going to be that type of
What you just said is scary, man. If fucking after suspension, Alvin Kamara has been a blessing to people who kind of went 0 RB. If Williams comes back and they turn this shit into a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs situation and they give Jamal Williams all the high value touches, which is possible because Kamara's old as shit and is getting an insane amount of time. Fuck, I never even considered that, man. That is truly terrifying. Are we about to see a big dip in Kamara's value?
I hope not, just because Williams isn't good. That's my whole thing. I love Jamal Williams. I love his anime stuff. I love the personality. But he scored fantasy points because of those goddamn touchdowns last year. But I have Kamara as a top 3 back this week. I'm really into him. And I could see it where the floor is a little bit lower. But he's going to catch a ton of passes. I don't know if Carr's fully back. I think he is, but he's still dealing with that shoulder issue, and they have issues with Olave's getting healthy. So yeah, it's setting up for smash Alvin Kamara week on Thursday Night Football. But we've seen Thursday Night Football. It's not been normal at once like this entire year. So I have both these running backs as top 6 options. So I'm very high on both of them.
I've always been a believer in the don't start anyone on Thursday. I agree.
Except this week, you don't got a choice.
Yeah. But then the problem too with the Saints, right, is, and we'll get into it in a minute, but every other position, they have guys who are basically the same, right? Shaheed is basically Chris Olave, and they have the potential to cap each other. Kendre is basically Jamal Williams, right? So you really don't want to rely on Foster Moreau is basically Juwan Johnson, is basically Taysom Hill. So you don't want to really rely on any of these guys, and they're just going to cap each other.
Okay, I have a question. A question that has been tweeted to me. Need to pick up a tight end for a bye week. He has option 1 is he has Dalton Schultz, who's been his tight end. He wants to hold him to the bye week. Should he drop Schultz for a tight end or drop Judy or JSN? I think he drops Schultz.
I mean,
which tight end?
You could, which tight end do we got?
Just a second.
You could drop Judy or JSN, and I'm not going to care, to tell you the truth. Like, I'm excited for JSN, but like the only way I think Judy hits is if he gets traded. So like you need a trade for Judy, and I don't know what's going to happen. So like both those guys, like they're just like, I was listening to podcasts. They're talking about both these guys yesterday, and I agreed. I was like, I'd be fine dropping either one of them. Like it's not going to kill you.
I prefer to drop JSN over Judy, I think. How about you?
I don't know. I think I'm Judy though, because there's so much smoke of Judy to the Colts. Judy goes to the Colts like it's a net zero. He's not gonna do anything, right? Jones is still gonna get that underneath stuff. Judy's gonna be slowly integrated to Gardner Minshew's offense, like pass. Okay,
probably. Ertz is probably the best tight end available on waivers.
That's rough.
There might be a better one, McBride.
There's got to be somebody better than Ertz on waivers.
Yeah. The stupid part of me wants to pick up Taysom Hill again. Good God.
I mean, I hate
this. Every year he does this, and every year I tell him don't play Taysom Hill. That means Taysom Hill's going to put up 40 points this week.
Yeah, like I'd rather play Hill than Ertz. Like I don't trust Ertz at all right now. His stuff is like falling off the cliff, and it's McBride time over there. So yeah, I don't.
Okay, so how about McBride, who is available? I'm sure.
Sure.
I would.
Like if you need a tight end, I'll go McBride.
Ertz or Hill.
McBride, but I don't feel great about it. But
for Judy, probably.
Yeah, you can drop either one of those wide receivers. Yeah, like I do wonder what JSN's upside is, because like both those guys are playing a lot, and like they're still good wide receivers. So I know someone said he's going to be ASRB in the second half of the season. I don't see how that happens without an injury. But
that's it, right? It's the injury. Like JJ Zacharyson, a couple of times on his pod has mentioned the fact that it's a good idea to hold guys who have multiple injury outs, right, to see increased playing time. And so if you're talking about wide receiver 3, where you have 2 stud wide receivers, and that wide receiver can play all over the field, as JSN can, he can slot in for either Lockett or DK if they go out. Judy, if Sutton goes out, you're still going to deal with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton scheming up and throwing him the ball. So
I'm going to read you the list of tight ends he just sent me, and then we got to move on because we're 20 minutes in and still on Thursday Night Football. Higbee, Ertz, Henry, McBride are basically the good options. Higbee, Ertz, Henry, Everett, McBride, Kincaid. McBride?
I don't mind Higbee as kind of a 1 week dart throw. I mean, the matchup is not good. But at the same time, they're just going to have to throw the ball. Those running backs are ridiculous. He's got the potential to see additional targets just to make up for the run game in the short and intermediate part of the field. So with those options, I do like McBride as my number 1, but I will go Higbee a close second.
Yeah, I'll go McBride over Ertz. And if you really want something for just this week, you can just go Taysom Hill. Just know the floor is 0. But like, you're just swinging the upside for that. It's really what you prefer. But yeah, I'd go
my Taysom Hill face.
Yeah, right. And we got who's playing
the jersey. I do. No, I've said this
wear that a lot.
Okay, the first year he came out, I wore it everywhere. He was my favorite player when he was that gadget guy out there returning punts, trucking people. And then I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. I got a Taysom Hill jersey. And then they went to where Breeze was injured and Breeze retired, and they tried to make him an actual full-time player and quarterback. And I was like, I fucking hate this guy. Every time he touches, like one out of every 2 touches, he fumbles the ball. I can't stand him.
Dude, he's like the fastest guy on offense. It's still crazy. He's old and he's still super fast. I don't get it. Like the guy's just a freak. He's just not a good quarterback. It's just
Sounds
so strange.
good. Appreciate the advice. You guys won it for me last week. I beat the number 1 seed in a huge upset.
All right.
Some advice. I think we told them Moss, and we had a few other ones. I looked through, and I actually after like Monday night, I was looking through, and I was like, "Damn, we did win this guy the league," because I have it on my phone. I can get into his team, and I was like, "Fuck, man, our advice really paid off for him." Nice. And he needed every bit of the lineup.
That's awesome.
All right, so let's move on here. We've got the wide receivers. It's 10th best matchup for Olave. Where the fuck is bottom 10 matchup for Christian Kirk. I am Olave as a probably low end wide receiver 1. Kirk's a 2 for me. Ralvin Kidley's a 3. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I have Kirk and Ridley in that just middling wide receiver 2, basically depending on matchups where, they can boom and bust. Like he saw like a 30% target share last week. It was good. It was just, and Kirk had the lowest percent target share. He was just the most efficient of those guys. So it was just a weird game, I think, for Ridley where he's just inefficient. But yeah, Olave is the guy that I trust more than them. But like, I'm not super high on Olave at the moment just because it's been kind of a disaster. He's like wide receiver 14. Ridley and Kirk are like 24 and 26, kind of in that range. And then, if you really want to test anybody else, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Zay Jones is out, right? So that immediately makes me a bit higher on Kirk and Ridley. Ridley's been such a disappointment because he's just not converting his insane usage.
I was
the
wrong.
usage
That's
is
the best thing you've said for me to clip.
Clip it.
What time stamp was that? 20
He's
minutes?
turned on his own guy. Yeah.
I was wrong. Ridley has been bad.
I'm still starting Ridley. But
now I'm going to cut that part out.
It's such a disappointment that he's not converting in the red zone, and he's not converting these high usage. Christian Kirk, I would start over Calvin Ridley at this point, although it's close. And I would just kind of prefer, given the matchup, I just prefer Olave over those two. So I'd probably go Olave, Kirk, and Ridley right next to each other, and then Michael Thomas if I have to.
Michael Thomas is 10 points every week. Just count on it to the bank. You're like, I just need a floor play. It's Michael Thomas.
You're gonna need it this week, that's for sure.
Tight end. It's the 5th best matchup for tight end. Juwan Johnson's out. Foster Moreau's had a little bit of usage. Actually, Taysom Hill acted as an actual tight end last week and was decent. Taysom Hill is not a terrible option, despite what we've said, if you're in a pinch. Evan Engram, it's a bottom 10 matchup. I don't care. He's a top 6 tight end right now, so he's a must start. I've actually tried to acquire him in a few leagues, but it was surprising how high other people are on him. Blake Groupie for the kickers, bottom 4 matchup for the Saints. I would like to get away from him if I can. He hasn't been terrible, but it's a bad matchup. Brandon McManus has actually been better lately, middle of the pack matchup. He is stream worthy if you need a kicker. DST's middle of the pack matchup. Actually, it's the 14th and 15th matchup for Saints and Jags. If I had to pick one here, I would much rather go with the Saints, especially because we don't know what Trevor Lawrence's status is. I don't really think either of them's top 10, but they're probably in the 12 range for me. So if you need to, you can play either of them. Any major disagreements or points of contention on that?
Nope. Sounds about right.
I just can't chase points with Taysom. I've done it for the last few years. I refuse to do it now. The only time he had decent usage outside of last week was week 2, where he had 9 carries for 75 yards, but he didn't get in the end zone, so he didn't even hit 10 fantasy points. So I'm out. I'm not chasing points on Taysom anymore. This will be clearly a whoever the tight end 4 is on New Orleans. He'll score 2 touchdowns for sure.
Jimmy Graham is back, baby.
Yes.
Is he still wandering through traffic somewhere?
Somewhere. He got 1 touchdown in week 3. That's about it.
Good. Next up, we got Raiders and Bears. I don't think we have a quarterback in this one. Don't know if Jimmy's going to play. He sucks. The backup, it looks like it's going to be Brian Hoyer, who I've had to actually add in a few leagues where I'm really desperate in Superflex. Justin Fields, it's likely he's not going to play. So this game is going to be Jimmy Graham versus Tyson Bagent. This should be our Thursday night football game. This is the kind of shit you see on Thursday night all the time. 2 dog shit teams with dog shit quarterbacks. Let's see the matchups as if it mattered. Low end matchup, 19th best for Fields. It is the 3rd best matchup for Hoyer, which is why I am streaming him in a few. I think I had a few leagues where my options were literally Hoyer or Bajent, and I went Hoyer. It's ugly. If I look at my QB rankings, I think I'm going to have to scroll a long way to find either of them. And I might have Fields and Jimmy G ranked higher, even though I don't think they're going to play. Bajent is 25 for me. Hoyer is 30, but I still took Hoyer because that's just projection clear out.
I would too. And I think the real question is like Brian Hoyer or like Jamison Williams, Quentin Johnston, right? Like, do you want like a guy who has the potential to score more points, even if he also has the potential to put up a 0? Or, you know, are you going to roll the dice on your 8 points from Brian Hoyer, who hopefully checks down, is smart and checks down to Josh Jacobs 14 times? You know, so I don't like playing either of these guys, but I agree Hoyer well over Bajent. He's just going to get destroyed back there.
You know, it's funny, in the league where I had to add him, I was deciding between Hoyer and Bajent, and in the end, I think I opted to go with a positional player at flex. I was just like, fuck it. And it might have even been a tight end, so that's how bad it is. I'm playing the tight end over them.
Start the Raiders D.
Yeah, at running back, it's the 4th best matchup for Josh Jacobs. He is a must start, despite how bad the offensive line has been. The Bears are that bad, so he should be a top 5 option. Roshan Johnson has the 10th best matchup, assuming it's him who plays. It could also be, Deonta Foreman, Darrington Evans. If Roshan plays, I'm probably willing to flex him or play him as even a low-end RB2, but I think Jacobs is the guy to go with here by far.
Yeah, there's a massive difference between Jacobs and whatever running back you're going to get in Chicago. Like, especially with a backup, like they're just going to lean on Jacobs in this matchup because you don't got to score a lot to beat Chicago with Bajent. The fun thing about Bajent is he said, don't worry about me replacing Fields. I can run the entire playbook. So I love the confidence factor, but he just sucks. So there's that. But yeah, Roshan, he's a flex. I don't know. If it's not Roshan, then just, I guess you're flexing Foreman, but you can't feel good about it with how they split last week. So yeah, Jacobs is the RB1. The starter in Chicago is going to be an RB3, whoever it is for me.
He should be able to run the entire playbook because if you look at it, Bajent is kind of similar to Justin Fields. When I scouted him, he ranked really high athletically and, that way, but he's a god-awful passer. Well, I mean, he played for a Division II team. Just a sec, we got a comment. Would you trade Kamara, Olave, Moss, J-Mo for holy shit, that's a big trade. For Cook, Puka, Herbert, Higgins, 1 QB. So Kamara.
You're getting Herbert too? Wow. That is
1 QB though. Yeah.
So Puka, he's like a low end wide receiver 1 for me, and Higgins is like a wide receiver 2. So I would much prefer the wide receivers on that side as opposed to J-Mo and Olave. But like Kamara well above Cook, and Moss is just like a throw in.
I still think it's the Herbert side, just because the receiver upgrade.
Yeah.
It depends if you need a quarterback, I guess. Like, if you need a quarterback, sure. I do worry about James Cook as much as I like him. Like, that's a massive downgrade from Kamara to him. Like, Kamara is a high-end RB1.
I was looking at it as in it's Cook for Moss and Herbert for Kamara, where I was just trading a running back, and then I was going wide receiver for wide receiver. I guess it depends how you break it down, but if I need a quarterback, I go Herbert.
I'm looking at it as Puka for Kamara, and then you have Higgins and Olave, right? Those could be a bit similar. So I guess it depends what your quarterback situation is. I agree with you, Aaron. I slightly lean on the right side.
Okay, moving on. We've got receivers. 15th best matchup for Devontae Adams, so it doesn't really sway it. He's been kind of scary. I think you're still starting him as a low-end wide receiver 1 at this point, but Jacoby Myers is getting a lot more play than I would have expected. He's probably a locked-in wide receiver 2, even if it's a low-end. DJ Moore, 23rd best matchup, so not a good one. He's the only pass catcher on this team, really. He's probably a high-end wide receiver 2. He's a must-start. And I'm not starting anyone else on the Bears because I think Mooney's still on there. I don't even know if I can name another receiver on the Bears. What do you guys think?
It goes to Chase Claypool, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
No, didn't they send him home or didn't they?
I don't even know. Like, I have no idea what's going on.
Wasn't he? He's in timeout.
He's been banished to the shadow realm. Like,
there's a rookie over there.
Oh, Tyler Scott?
Yeah, he's getting a bit of run. But you're not starting him.
No. Yeah, it's interesting with those two. Like, oh no, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Oh, like real quick, like no, I'm not starting any of them. They're not must starts with this crap quarterback situation. I don't want anything to do with DJ Moore. You have to start him because everybody else is on bye or hurt. But yeah, he's I don't trust him at all with whatever Bajent is doing. And yeah, Myers and Adams with Brian Hoyer, no thanks. He's going to hit Jacobs. He's going to hit the tight ends. I hate it all. So if I don't have to, I won't. But you probably do.
Yeah.
So I will caveat it. When Hoyer played earlier this year, he hyper targeted Devontae Adams. Like, it was the most targeted seen all year. But he's dealing with that shoulder issue, so who knows how it is. But like, Adams is gonna be a top 5 guy this me if it's Hoyer, because then it's just the first wide receiver all day, Devontae Adams. So Jacoby knocks down to like wide receiver 30. Otherwise, I'd be a lot higher with Jacoby if what space is there. But
tight ends, we've got 2 of the guys I've tried to trade for most in Dynasty. 9th best matchup for Michael Mayer. I bought low on everywhere where I don't already have him. I said he was the best tight end in this rookie class, and I think he's about to explode. I'm starting him as a low-end one if I have to, but he's probably someone I want to sit on my bench for another week. Although in this matchup, I think he's a low-end one. Cole Kmet, 13th best matchup. I've also tried to grab him everywhere. I think he's a mid-range tight end one going forward. This week, he's probably a mid-range tight end one. So I think we have 2 of the top 12 this week at tight end, which is scary in this game. But I'm comfortable starting both of these. I much prefer Kmet. The kickers, it is a bad matchup for Cairo Santos, and he's a bad kicker, so I'm sitting him. Daniel Carlson has struggled and kind of been a disappointment. It's the 9th best matchup for him. If you have Carlson, you probably have to play him unless there's a good backup available on waivers. But I would expect, hopefully he gets it back on track. It's a good matchup. And the DST's 3rd best matchup for the Raiders. I don't trust any bad defense, so I know a lot of people are recommending starting the Raiders. I guess you can if you want to, but I'm avoiding them. 11th best matchup for the Bears. I'm also avoiding them. I don't want any part of pretty much anyone in this game, aside from maybe the tight ends and a couple of receivers and Josh Jacobs. So it's kind of scary. What do you guys think?
I think the issue with Badgett is he brings down the floor significantly for all of those guys, including the tight end. So I'll actually, because Hoyer is an NFL quarterback quality, like I'll prefer Mayer this week over him. But like I'm not high into one of those guys, to tell you the truth. So yeah, it's kind of just like start if you have to, but the floor is super low.
Yeah, pass, bet the under. That's it.
We got Falcons and Bucks. Wow, I think I did a write-up for this in, I don't even remember what it was, one of my 90 articles, and the quarterbacks are just brutal. They both look terrible. Ritter looks a little better lately. Baker looks a little worse. The matchups we are, where the hell are they? It's a middle-of-the-pack matchup for Ritter. It's a slightly better but middle-of-the-pack matchup for Mayfield. These two are super flex QB2 desperations only. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on both of them. I think any week now, Ritter's gonna see the bench in favor of Heineke, right? But it doesn't matter. They run so much. The problem is they're gonna run right into the Buccaneers line and linebackers, and it's just gonna be another ugly game. These games suck so far, by the way. They're lining up to be terrible. No, I don't want to start either of these guys.
There's only one good game of the 7 we preview today. They're ugly. The NFC side is ugly.
Yeah, it's gross. I mean, it's interesting that Ritter's thrown for 300 yards in back-to-back games the last 2 weeks where we were like, oh, he's not going to pass it all. And he's thrown it 37 and 47 times. And obviously that's game script and stuff like that, but it's just – I'm surprised Smith is even letting him do that, to tell you the truth. And yeah, I trust Baker over Ritter, which I didn't think I'd say going into the year, but like that's where I'm at with the two of these guys. I have Baker like 2 spots ahead of Ritter. It's just he's a better quality quarterback, and it's just we just see. So yeah, Baker over Ritter, but yeah, I don't want either other one of these guys, to tell you the truth.
Nope.
4th worst matchup for Rachaad White at running back. He's been terrible. The matchup's terrible. Again, it's by Mageddon and injury Mageddon. So if you got to play him, you may have to, but I don't want to if I can avoid it. It's the 11th worst matchup for Bijan. Doesn't matter. You got to play him. He's an RB1. I get it. Tyler Algier is stealing touches from him. The Falcons are kind of a dumpster fire. It's not a great matchup, but If you have Bijan on your team, you can't sit him. So start Bijan, avoid Rachaad White if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough for White. He's not good, and they're chipping away at his usage. So, like, we kind of talked about this going into the year. Like, if he's not good, he's not going to hold on to that usage. So it's kind of happening. And Bijan, you guys just got to start him. Like, he's too good. Like, I don't care.
Well, it's funny because I think we had discussed it a few times, and even I was guilty of it. And we said, well, the main thing for Rachaad White is if you look, Baker Mayfield last year, was it last year?
Yeah.
I don't remember one of the 2 years. Last year, led the league in checkdowns to running back. So that's got to carry forward to Rachaad White. You know what we forgot to factor in of why he checked down the ball so much?
6 games of Christian McCaffrey.
He was checking down the ball to Christian McCaffrey. No, we forgot to factor that in. Oh, Rachaad White's not Christian McCaffrey? Who could have fucking projected that?
Close.
So strange how that works.
They are not one for one. So. Wide receiver here, we've got Desmond Ridder, top 7. Desmond Ridder. Drake London, the top 7 matchup for him. You could probably start him as a 2-3 borderline there. It's risky as all shit. He's either he could put up anything from 30 points to 0 points. I have no idea what to play. If you got him, you probably got to play him this week. So at this point, I don't think there are many big name players you can sit. So I got to start London as a 3. Mike Evans, it's the 6th worst matchup for the Bucs. Another one, if you have Evans, you can't afford to sit him. He's probably a wide receiver 2. Godwin's probably a wide receiver 3. I don't love any of these 3 options. They're all on the 2-3 borderline for me, but I got to play all of them.
Yeah, I'm a lot higher on London. I'm like, he's pushing into wide receiver 1 status this week for me. So that shows you where I'm at with London. Like, they're using him and it's been good. Like, outside of week 1, he's been seeing the targets. Like, he's been good. Like, I'm not too worried about him. Like, he's just talented wide receiver. And like, I get it. But on the flip side, like, I don't trust Chris Godwin. Like, they're using him a lot on the outside, and with Evans back healthy, once again, his usage fell off a cliff. So, like, if Evans is playing, he's the guy in that offense they trust. And Godwin just worries me, man. He's not playing in the slot, so he's playing outside, and that's going to hurt him from, like, a statistical standpoint because it's harder to get stats on the outside if you're not like an X wide receiver, right? So if he's not playing in the slot, then I'm worried about him long term. So, yeah, Chris Godwin's been a sell for me. He's going to continue to be a sell.
Yeah. And on the same, basically, Drake London the last 2 weeks has 9 and 12 targets. They figured out how to use both tight ends. They just brought in Van Jefferson. Not that that's going to make a difference, but they're clearly at least looking toward the passing game with Ridder. I think that's a mistake, but they're still doing it. They're still letting him air it out. If you throw it anywhere near Drake London, he's going to catch the ball. So I'll take London right next to Evans, who's a close 2, and then, Godwin is much further down the list.
Tight end, it's the 8th best matchup for Cade Otton. Can't start him. He's a decent stash in Dynasty. He's always on the field. It's just not translating because Baker Mayfield's shit. It's the 11th worst matchup for Kyle Pitts. If you have Pitts, you probably got to keep playing him. He looks like he's sort of come to life. It's risky. You never know what the hell Arthur Smith's going to do, but I could play Pitts if I have to. At kicker, we have middle of the pack matchup for Chase McLaughlin at 15. 18 for Koo. I don't really want to play either of them, but they can be played if you have to. Like, I wouldn't drop Koo, even though he's been disappointing. McLaughlin, you probably don't have him on your roster anyways. The DSTs, it's the 20th best matchup for the Falcons. I'm not playing them. Their defense is not great. 6th best matchup for the Bucs. There's probably going to be some turnovers here. The Falcons aren't going to score that much. I think the Bucs are probably a top 8 DST for me. I'm going to have to bring up my rankings again. They're 8th, actually, exactly. So that's how I feel about that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say for Pitts, just treat him more like wide receiver usage. So, like, how the matchup goes against wide receivers, like, that's more how I look into him than tight end usage, just because they're using him downfield. It's all deep shots, stuff like that. And, yeah, Jonnu, like, I'm fine streaming Jonnu. Like, he's been good. He's been involved. You ride it until the wheels fall off with Jonnu. Like, It's just, he's low end tight end 1.
I agree.
Next up, another barn burner. You know what the funny part is? We're going to have to do – the best game is going to be the last one because it's the Monday Nighter, and the only reason it's in here is because it is NFC, but it's the only good game on the NFC home game slate. So we've got Steelers at Rams here. More.
Yay.
So with that Kenny Pickett, it's the 12th best matchup. I don't care. Kenny Pickett's a low-end QB2. If it's super flex, you play him. If you have to. If not, fuck him. Matthew Stafford, 6th best matchup. He has actually been far better than Kenny Pickett. He's still only a mid-range QB2. I don't think I really want either of these guys. I know it's bye week, super flex, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be willing to bet they're both probably in the 15 range for me. Matthew Stafford is 13 and Kenny Pickett is 18. So in super flex with all the buys and injuries, you probably got to play them both. Obviously, Stafford a little higher.
The fun fact, I heard a stat yesterday. If teams average over 22 points against the Steelers, they're 1-15 in those games. Fuck you, Matt Canada. I'm so sick of Matt Canada. Like this is directly to Matt Canada. Is just awful. Doesn't know how to scheme offense. I don't know why he has a job. Literally, like gonna say this, and they're getting Deontay Johnson back. I don't know how much that matters, to tell you the truth. Like so, it's just It's Kenny Pickett's just set up for to fail with that offense. And
I think
the Rams defense is not been bad.
Pickens.
Yeah, and it's gonna hurt George Pickens. But for the quarterback in general, like looking at them, like I just can't. It's hard to prop up Kenny Pickett any higher than he is, right? And Stafford, on the flip side, like he has his wide receivers, he's looked really good. It's just the fantasy production comes. So yeah, Stafford much higher, like by far.
Yeah, and he's gonna have to throw in this one. There's no way that they can hand the ball off 20 times. It's just they shouldn't, they can't, they won't. Give me all the pass catchers, as we'll talk about. And Stafford well over Pickett.
Yeah. Have you watched NFL games? Coaches do stupid shit. Like, I'm sure there's somebody, even in the pre-draft process, there were plenty of people out there trying to convince me that Zach Evans was a good player. Lost his job to Kendre Miller at TCU, then went over at Ole Miss and was supposed to be the stud and lost his job again. Granted, it was the Judkins, but still, he's not a good player. Everywhere he goes, he loses his job, and he lost his job here. And then he chanced at it, except it's injuries. So,
like Ronnie Rivers is playing over you, dude. Like that's the alternate side. Like, hey, this guy's probably not that good, right? Like if you're losing out to Ronnie Rivers, like we're just gonna not. I don't want to deal with that. And like you might have to play him this week. That's how bad running back position is. So you could take that gamble, but it's just so curiously, who's the highest ranked running back for you guys in this matchup? Because like. I literally don't know how to do I guess it's Najee, but I almost want to play whatever.
Probably Warren. Probably Warren. Najee's going to get the usage, man. But Warren is being used in more creative ways because Matt Canada doesn't like to use his best players for some reason.
I have him at 20 and 28. 20 and 28.
Yeah, by far over whoever the Rams are going to roll out there. They're back to back, right? Like I think you can pick either of these guys. You can pick both of these guys and just hope one of them or both of them fall into the end zone.
It's a middle of the pack matchup for whoever gets the ball in LA. I'm avoiding them at all costs. I mean, obviously, excuse me, there's some situations this week where you might have to play them, but I would avoid it. 23rd best matchup, so it's a bottom 10 matchup for the Steelers. I have Najee at 20. I have Warren at 28. Probably got to play both of them this week.
Yeah.
Just because it's that desperate.
I think I'd rather gamble on whatever running back the Rams are going to roll out than trust the Steelers running back. Like that's where I'm at with those guys. Like I'll rank them higher, but I have zero confidence in either Steelers running back. Unless you want 10 points, then Warren can give you that. But if you're looking for something more than that, just bet on whichever Rams running back you want to go. If that's Evans, if that's Henderson, or if that's Royce Freeman, whatever, dude. I'd rather go that way.
Yeah, but that's the problem, right? Is you have no idea who it's going to be, and because they're probably going to pass the ball more, could Gaskin be involved? Is Henderson going to get the work because he knows the system, right? There's no way of knowing. Freeman has been on the practice squad all year. He should theoretically be good to go, even though he sucks, right? So who are they going to give the ball? Who do they trust in pass protection? Let alone to go out in the back. And I just don't know the answer to that. So I'm taking the Steelers backs over those guys.
I just the Rams offense is so much better right now. It's just an offense that's funneling points to that running back position. That's my whole thing. Yeah, you could swing and miss, but I think the upside's significantly higher with whichever one of those running backs.
Who are you going with, Jesse?
I guess Evans, but it's kind of by default. It's Zach Evans by default just because but I don't feel good about it.
Yeah. Wide receivers are interesting. It's the 4th worst matchup for the Steelers. I have George Pickens at 29, Deontay at 33. They're both starts if you have to. I don't want to start either of them, but you probably do. You don't know how much Pickens is going to lose out to Deontay, and you don't know if Deontay's going to be out there fully healthy. You would think he would be, but if he's eased into it, you never know. It's top 12 matchup for the Rams. I have both of them in my top 12 at receiver. Cooper Kupp is wide receiver 2. Puka Nacua is wide receiver 11. It's an absolute smash spot if you have either Rams wide receiver.
Yep. Play all the Rams wide receivers. Like,
this even
this is what
2-2.
you want, right? Yeah. Like, you could flex to for sure. I'm with you on that. This is the 1 week I will have Pickens above Deontay Johnson just because he's the first week coming back. Outside of that, like, I'm going to turn back into Deontay. He's been really good. But yeah, like, it's hard to just put Deontay above Pickens this week. So, like, that's my caveat with it.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen Deontay score a touchdown in how many months? Like 15, 18 months, whatever it is, right? So Pickens obviously has the higher TD upside. But yeah, I think we're still going to see a heavy dose of targets to Deontay. So they're neck and neck, but they're well below both Kupp and Puka. And I think 2-2 will rival where they end up. They're just going to throw the ball over the yard. The Rams are. The Steelers are going to try to keep up. Can they? We'll find out.
Yeah, they're both wide receiver 3s for me. Like, I'm just waiting to see how it shakes out. Like, I don't have confidence.
Tight end is a little interesting. It's a fourth worst matchup for Tyler Higbee. He's probably a desperation start if you have to, as we talked about with my cousin's question there. You may have to, but I think he's probably outside my top 12 at tight end. It is the third best matchup for the Steelers. I think Pat Freiermuth plays. If Pat Freiermuth plays, he's probably a top 10 to 12 option, and I don't mind starting him. Yeah. If he doesn't play, I don't want Hayward or Washington or whoever the hell it is. I have right now Freiermuth at 11, and I have Higbee at 18.
That's how I have it.
Sure.
And Freiermuth logged a full practice yesterday, so he should be good moving into the week.
Kickers, we've got a 11th worst matchup for Brett Maher. I'm not playing him. He hasn't been good. It's a bad matchup. Avoid. Boswell, 7th best matchup. He's been decent matchup. He's streamable, but not a must start. And the DSTs, middle of the pack matchup for the Rams. Apparently, it's a bad matchup for the Steelers. I'm not sure how much I believe that, but I don't really want to start either of them. The math says to start the Rams. I think I prefer the Rams. The Steelers are just going to be a mess, but I don't really want to start either. I'm going to check my DST rankings here. I don't know if either of them are top 10. I feel like no. I have Rams at 10, Steelers at 13. So there's that.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny Pickett is basically a poor man Zach Wilson. So, fire up your DST against the Steelers.
I don't even think he's a poor man Zach Wilson. I think he's Zach Wilson. So.
Yeah, just not the high draft capital. It's it sucks. Like, I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I just think he's in an awful situation, like, where he's not gonna be able to succeed. It's like there's that.
You are right. You are 100% right. Kenny Pickett is not a terrible CFL quarterback. All right, moving on to a slightly more exciting game.
All right.
See how you're gonna win. Woo! Yeah.
That's one we discussed today.
That's kind of the theme of this week. There's a lot of options where it's like, these guys suck, but you got to play them. This game sucks, but we got to talk about it. So at quarterback, we have Josh Dobbs, who I've heard a lot of people saying they're streaming. I'm pretty much out. No, I think this is why all of a sudden you see a lot of chatter about Kyler coming back. I don't think he's been activated, but I'm not 100% sure he doesn't play this week as kind of a surprise because Josh Dobbs, the league has caught on to him, and he looks like total dog shit. Geno Smith, I don't know what the hell's wrong with him. Who would have thought that you couldn't trust the 10th year breakout for a quarterback? But he apparently has turned back into a pumpkin. It is the 4th best matchup for Geno. I think I'll trust him as a low-end 1, more likely a high-end 2. And for Dobbs, it's the 10th best matchup for Dobbs. I'm still not starting him. If Kyler were to play, though, I don't mind playing Kyler here. I'm not expecting him to play. It's just not impossible. I got to bring up my rankings here, and I'm probably – I was surprised. That's how bad this is. Geno, after all I said, is my QB 9. Geno's my 9. Dobbs is my 19. They both kind of scare me because at this point, They kind of seem to be bipolar, and you don't know what you're going to get from either. But I think Dobbs is turned back into what Dobbs was.
100%. Like, I just don't trust Dobbs. Like, we've seen in the last couple of weeks how he's regressed back to what he was before he started out the season, right? Whereas, like, Dobbs is just not a good quarterback. No surprise, the league's caught on to Dobbs. He's just not good. So, like, this is going to be the last week you can get Kyler for super cheap. Because after this week, like, people are going to be like, all right, Kyler's coming back. I think he's going to
got him on
expect to come back
waivers everywhere this week and stashed him on my IR.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the play. And yeah, Gino's.
And that was like, I just happened. I was, you know what inspired it? I had one league where I dropped a guy and then realized I had an IR spot. And I was like, Kyler's there. I can add him on IR. This was before any of the announcements. So I just went through on all my leagues and I just started stashing him. And I forget who else it was that was on IR, maybe Herbert. There was a few I went through and stashed some IR guys because I had so many leagues I wasn't really using them properly. So I stashed a whole bunch of guys, and then the next day they're like, Kyler Murray is practicing. And everyone's like, oh, how did you know? You're a genius. I'm like, no, I got lucky. I had no fucking info. I know nothing.
That's where I've been at with Kyler. He's been on my IR the entire time if I had Kyler on rosters outside of Dynasty leagues. Like, that's all.
I drafted him in a few leagues, like late.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
And yeah, Kyler's my highest roster Dynasty quarterback, so that shows you where I'm at with Kyler.
Running back, it's a middle-of-the-pack matchup for Keontae Ingram, who I prefer over Demarcado or Damian Williams. That's a scary thought. I have to start him in a couple of leagues. Don't really want to. Probably just a flex-worthy back. Ken Walker, it is the second best matchup this week because Carolina's on bye. He is an absolute fucking smash and is going to destroy this week. And with the exception of maybe Travis Etienne, I don't think there's another running back who's gained more value for me in Dynasty this year. Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne went from guys where I was hoping I could get RB2 value out of them to where they're probably, both of them are top 6 to me with McCaffrey, Taylor, Brees, Bijan. I know there's one more I'm forgetting, but I think they're both absolutely elite, absolute must starts. And Walker is in a total smash spot. If you told me Walker puts up 40 points and is the RB1 this week, I wouldn't even question it.
Yeah, like this Cardinals defense sucks. So like this is the thing we're talking about. Like you should start all of your Seahawks players this week, except Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like that's the one guy I'm like, yeah, maybe don't start him. But
and
like, just have confidence. Yeah, like we don't even talk about the CX tight ends. Like fuck that.
Players.
Exactly right. Yeah, Ken Walker. I'm starting him over Kamara. Like that's where I'm at with Walker. So like Kamara is like my RB3. Walker's my RB2 this week, and it's like Bijan. It's like, yeah, so like that's where I'm at with Walker. Just fire him up. Like I don't know why you wouldn't.
And on the other side of the ball, I mean, I don't know who's going to get the rock. I don't want to start them. If you have to, I agree. It's probably Ingram, but really just start literally anyone else on another team. Just don't touch these guys. Don't touch the Rams. Don't touch the Cardinals. Go pick up Taysom Hill if you have to and plug him into the flex. I don't want any part of this backfield. For the
Do you ever have where you think, oh, I'm going to go look and see where this guy is in my rankings, and you're like, wow, I am significantly lower or higher than I expected? Well, so we were talking. I was listening to Jesse there, and I'm like, I'm going to go into my rankings. I'm going to update it. And I want to move Kenneth Walker significantly higher. Not possible. He's already my RB1 this week. So I cannot be higher on Kenneth Walker. Apparently, I already knew I was high on Kenneth Walker. And now it's just self-promotion.
Where's Charbonnet? Where do you have Charbonnet, Aaron?
Ooh, that's
because I'll start him over any of those Cardinals backs. Like, he's getting a couple touches
40.
a game. I'm not sure what he did last week, but I don't want any part of the other side of the ball.
40.
He's like RB 35 for me, which I'm
Keontae
surprised at. But
I have Ingram at 34 and Charbonnet at 40, so I'm still going Ingram.
Yeah.
It sucks because Demarcado had the most snaps out of any of those guys, right? Like he was on the field the most, and then they gave the most touches to Ingram. So take with that what you will. It's just like, I don't know. Yeah. Start whichever one of those guys. But
wide receivers, it is the best matchup in fantasy for the Cardinals. I am comfortable starting Hollywood Brown as probably a 2. I guess if you're desperate, I don't mind flexing Michael Wilson. The 5th best matchup for the Seahawks, I think I probably have Metcalf as a top 12 option. Lockett is probably a 2 or a 3 because he's been struggling. And JSN, out of desperation, you can flex. Let me check my rankings here, but I'm pretty sure I can start 4 wide receivers in this game. My highest one is DK at 11. Hollywood at 17, Lockett at 19, and JSN is way down at 47. So it's almost like I knew what I was talking about, and that pretty much what I was. You guys want to?
It's always nice when it works.
You guys want to say what you have to say about wide receiver here, and then I'll get to the question that was just posted.
Yeah, I get it with like we had that blip with Michael Wilson, but like you can't play him. Like it's just you got to be ballsy to play him this week, right? Like okay, I'll play him. I would rather take a flyer on Jackson Smith and Jigba and just deal with that than I would play Michael Wilson in this matchup. That's where I'm at. So
that's fair.
Yeah,
and I think for me, Brown just with Dobbs and with the corners in Seattle, they're not phenomenal, but I don't trust Brown is, but I don't necessarily trust that he's going to consistently continue to blow up each week like he was earlier in the season. I'll take both DK and Tyler Lockett over him in this matchup.
Yeah, like with Hollywood, it's just targets. That's what it is. Like you're chasing those targets.
Yeah. Any moves or upgrades you're trying to make, and at which position? 12-team PPR. So we lost A-Rich. Assuming it's single QB, you've got Stafford.
Got to be single, right?
And Stroud.
Yeah, if it is, you've got Stafford and Stroud, so that should be more than enough. I guess if you could upgrade, go for it, but I wouldn't give up anything to upgrade if it's single QB. Your running backs scare me. Pollard, Cook, Mixon is pretty much the all underperforming club.
Yeah, exactly. That's
sorry. I thought for some reason Herbert came up as Justin to me in my mind, so I stopped. But you also have Herbert, Spears, and Hunt. I think Spears is an elite hold. I think he's going to be great. I don't know if you could try and package, if you could get rid of Hunt or
Mixon even. Yeah, try and flip Mixon. Maybe he falls into the end zone this week. I don't know if anyone's taken him before. Whatever he does this week, because he's just not putting up points. But I agree. If you can flip Mixon for maybe package him with
if you could do that.
Oh yeah, of course. Or package him with maybe Hollywood and go for an upgrade at wide receiver. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, okay. I don't mind packaging him with Ayuk and going for a truly elite player, like going to like the high tier of player. Like Ayuk's too good, man. Yeah. I'd go higher than CD. I'm talking like elite. Like we're going after Cooper Kupp type players. Like we're going for that guy.
I don't want to do that, especially if it's for CD. This is going to be hot takey, but I prefer Ayuk rest of season over Lamb.
They're kind of close. Like that's why I'm talking about going after Kupp. Like
and it's not enough elite guy. Add in Mixon with it to get to CD Lamb. Maybe you don't do it 1-for-1, but I'm not giving up Mixon and Ayuk to get to Lamb.
I'll package them for Bijan. Like I'll go get Bijan in that team. Like I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'd like to package Mixon and maybe you can get Mixon and Herbert and package him to get Pacheco. I don't know. Okay, then we got a wide receiver. We got Diggs, who's awesome. I love Ayuk. And then you've got a bunch of kind of middling guys here. MT, Hollywood. So basically what you need to try and do is consolidate some of these options, which can be tough. So you need to what you need to be doing is looking now. Your record is 3-3. You need to look at these teams that are winless, 1-5 or 2-4, and are desperate and are facing injuries and bye weeks right now. And you need to get a trade you wouldn't normally, like if you have to eat a guy who's on a bye this week, who you wouldn't normally be able to give, too bad. Or that's fine. Make the trade for the better player, and if you have to eat the 1 week so they can stay afloat, do it. I know these trades, you think they're maybe crazy, but some people are just desperate and have to get through the bye week. So I would look to
at his next question
in vulnerable situations. It's the same thing. It's just thank you. Oh, sorry. Also on my other 12 team, I moved Olave and James Cook for Stephon Diggs.
Yes,
I prefer Diggs.
That's a good trade. Yes. That's a good trade.
Yes. Fields, Howell, Caffrey. So that's a pretty stacked team.
I don't like your RB2 situation though. Like that's kind of just it's a lot of risk.
That's another spot. He seems to have the same RB2 backup RBs on this one.
He's got a quarterback problem now, doesn't he?
You're a little deeper. Yeah. You're a little deeper. Oh, so you need to fix your quarterback situation, but you're a little deeper on wide receiver here and can probably afford to give up Flowers or Ayuk with maybe James Cook to try and package for an elite, like a Kamara or someone. But both teams
you can also cut Elijah Moore. He's just roster clogger. Get him off your roster. Like he's doing nothing for you.
And in terms of James Ford, right? I mean, it's just scary there with Hunt now. He did get 17 carries, but you might be able to say, he had 11 fantasy points last week. He's still getting the carries. Maybe someone, will take him in a package, and you can upgrade at RB or look.
I don't mind Ford. Like, I think Ford's fine. Like, it's like a low end RB2 rest of the season. He's okay. But like, you have that in Cook where they're both there. It's the same guy. Just Cook loads more value. So package Cook in a deal to try to get something, like where you package him with Olave or Ayuk or Flowers or whatever, right? You pick one of those guys, sell high.
Again,
that's the
this
way.
is
You're not worried about Hunt, Justin?
Again,
he still saw a majority of the work. Like, he was more efficient. Just Hunt had the touchdown. Like, that's what it was.
Ford is not good.
He was more efficient.
Again, this is the optimal week where if you're not one of the desperate managers, go and pick on one of the desperate managers who needs to replace a bye or whatever, and look for someone who is on bye. One of those guys that you wouldn't normally be able to acquire, except for the fact that they are on bye. Sorry, I'll get back into this for the tight ends here. Who are we doing? Seattle and Arizona. Sorry. Bottom of the barrel, not bottom of the barrel, but low end matchup for Arizona. I think if I had to pick an Arizona tight end, as I just told my cousin, or as we told him, I take Trey McBride over Zach Ertz. Mm-hmm. Don't know if they cracked the top 12 for me. They're not a terrible stream if you're desperate like my cousin was. It's the second worst matchup for Seattle. That doesn't matter because I'm not starting Noah Fant anyways. As far as kickers go, it's the 13th best matchup for Prater, who's been decent, so you can play him if you got him. Similar for Jason Myers on Seattle. He is the 10th best matchup. Play both kickers if you have to. Neither is droppable, but neither is must start. DSTs. It's the 6th worst matchup for the Cardinals. I don't want any part of them. And it's a middle-of-the-pack matchup for the Seahawks. More so if Josh Dobbs is in at quarterback, which we expect. They're not a great option, but I think they're probably going to crack the top 12 because of how many teams are on bye. Check. Actually, they're 8 for me, so I don't mind them. I think I can play Seattle, but I want no part of Arizona. What about you guys?
With you. Yeah, like that's how I view it. Like, Seattle will force some turnovers and sacks and stuff this week just because Dobbs is not good. So, like, that'll work.
And as far as Noah Fant is concerned, not that you're starting him anyway, but Rondale Moore has twice as many fantasy points as Noah Fant. That should tell you everything you need to know.
I don't know why people are still holding a candle for Fant. Like, just if you can get, I have him on 1 or 2 rosters and I can't get anything for him, so he's just a clogger. Even in Dynasty, like, I don't even want him. I'm like,
it's that athleticism.
Take him for a 3rd round pick.
Perceived athleticism. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah, right. Doing nothing. It's just awful.
Sorry, having an issue. We had waivers didn't clear properly in my league. We had 3 players. I made a big trade. Oh, actually, I should get your opinion on the trade. But I made a big trade, and I had to drop 3 players. Jaleel McLaughlin, Sean Tucker, and some nobody. Anyways, all 3 were picked up for some reason, didn't have to clear waivers. So then there was league outrage because I think I messed up the setting. I think I had it where they clear. But so I went and fixed it. But the problem is when he dropped them back, it looks like they went back to free agency. So I'm trying to fix that. But here's the trade. So me in first place right now with 1 loss and a pretty young stacked team, I acquired Lamar, DeAndre Swift, T. Higgins. I gave up a lot. I gave up Anthony Richardson, a early first and a late first.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the early first hurts, but like that's so like in a year you'll probably be like, fuck, I gave up Richardson in the early first, but like if you're going for the championship and you got Lamar, he's the best player in the package, so like it makes sense. Like, I
thought I gave up too much because I was high on Anthony Richardson and I'm not a Lamar guy. I thought I gave up too much, but so 2 days later I'm getting nonstop spam from the guy I made the deal with. Apparently, everyone in the league is crucifying him over it and saying he gave the players away. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't like Lamar. I still have Anthony Richardson as like a top 8 quarterback in Dynasty.
That's what I said.
Don't know why.
I'm like the only reason I even considered it is because I'm like I said, I'm 5-1, and I have. Well, I would have been started. I still am all right. Like my other 3 QB, it's super flex. My other 3 QBs were Howell, Stroud, and Dak. So it was just an upgrade, but
and for him, he gets like if it's an early first, that's the top 4 pick. That's Bowers, Harrison. That's the 2 quarterbacks. Like you're like I don't know why people hate that trade for him. Like I think it's a good deal for both sides.
All right.
Yeah. Why can't trades be win-win? You know.
Exactly right.
Let's wrap it up with the crown jewel of the week. We have Niners at Vikings. This is probably going to
Look
be
at
one
McCaffrey's points.
ass kicking, but we've got Brock Purdy against Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, it's the 5th worst matchup. I know he's probably going to be in my top 12. That's a reflection of how good he is and how bad this week is. This is a terrible matchup, and I love to avoid the Niners, but you can't. You just got to hope they can try and hang in a shootout here. Ninth best matchup for Purdy. I still think I would prefer Kirk Cousins. I'm going to check my rankings. Nope. We'll see.
Nope, I'm not.
That's bold. That's a bold take right there.
Jeremy, where do you have Cousins?
I don't have it ranked that way. But okay, so my gut says I like Cousins far more, but I have Purdy 10 and Cousins 13. So I have Purdy higher, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Purdy. That's why. I think he's out.
I'm very high on Purdy this week. He's like top 6 for me. Like this matchup plus. It's all about if McCaffrey's healthy and like you have some issues, but man, like this is the ideal matchup for Purdy where he's gonna put up like 30 points for you.
I get it. I don't disagree. My rankings agree. My first bet instinct was Kirk Cousins, but yeah, the matchup makes the difference. But
without Jefferson, man, it's been a struggle. Like it's been a struggle for Cousins, and that's what we're.
Yeah, you hope he throws a couple of touchdowns, but really, what you're looking at is just one bad game from Brock Purdy last week. Otherwise, he was a QB1 for 3 weeks in a row, basically. I don't really have any issue firing up Purdy here over Cousins, just given the state of the defenses here. And the Vikings, they've given up. With Justin Jefferson, who went on IR, that team is, they've got nothing going for them. There's no incentive for them to stop Ayuk. They couldn't anyway if they wanted to. Debo, forget it. Just fire up Purdy.
Yeah, like Cousins could throw it 45 times in this game. So like there's fantasy points to be had on the other side. It's just there could be a lot of turnovers.
But he's going to throw it into that secondary or to those linebackers who are picking off everything inside. I mean, and he's going to get crushed. So it's just a disaster for him this week. But that said, he'll also be a top 12 quarterback because no one else is playing.
Running backs, we have a bad matchup here. The 12th worst for Alexander Mattison. I have him as a low end too. He is so low in my rankings. He's 21, which is below Najee Harris and Roshan Johnson. But I hate Alexander Mattison, and I think he's average at best. He's even losing touches to Cam Akers because that's how bad he is. On the other side of the ball, we have an even worse matchup for Christian McCaffrey, but I don't care because he's Christian McCaffrey if he plays. If not, like we said on the waiver show, have him in your flex spot, have KJ Osborne, Jordan Mason, Juwan Jennings, anybody in this game that you can pivot to in the last minute because it's a Monday nighter. So McCaffrey, if he plays, is a must start as always. I don't know how I feel about Mason or Elijah Mitchell. If it's Elijah Mitchell, I think Elijah Mitchell's a top 24 for me. He's 22. I don't know. Jordan Mason, I still have at 36, but Kyle Shanahan said that the only reason Mason out-touched him is because Mitchell only got one practice in off the injury. Right. I think Mitchell, he's 22 for me. I think I want to move him up significantly higher, but the problem is I don't know if McCaffrey's out or not.
Well, like Mitchell's always hurt. Like he can't stay healthy. Yeah. Like that's the thing with Mitchell. So like if he's healthy, I'm playing him for sure. If he's injured, then I'll just pivot to Mason as a flex. But like it's McCaffrey. Like you just play McCaffrey because he's out there. He's too good, man. Like I don't know why you do so much of him.
What Shanny said is also not surprising, right? Elijah Mitchell has held down the RB2 role, and whenever he's healthy, they plug him in there. So, if he's healthy, you plug him in and you just pray he doesn't get injured in the middle of the game.
That's the thing. Like, his laundry list of injuries is massive. It's like all these lower body, like he just can't stay healthy. So, like, if he's healthy, you play him. Like, that's just as simple as it is.
Yep.
I love how petty leagues are, man. I'm dealing with my work dynasty league, and I told you the situation we had with the waiver glitch. So I had to put Jaleel McLaughlin and a few other guys back on. So one guy complained. It's his brother-in-law who complains. He complains so that all three players are dropped back on waivers and need to go back through the waiver wire. And then what does he do? The guy who adds him is the guy who complained that they shouldn't be on a roster. So you complain that somebody else can't do it, and then the second they're back on waivers, you do it yourself. I fucking
That's about right.
I love people. So now
people love to complain if it doesn't work out in their favor, like when it affects them. When it doesn't affect them, they could care less. Like that happens, same thing.
So now I've got to go and drop this stupid player.
Like,
okay. So
In
at
my
wide
league, somebody was. I'll never mind. Just go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say in my league, somebody played a guy on IR in their running back spot. Nobody said a peep, but a few weeks ago, somebody else had somebody on the IR playing against them, and the person playing against them was like furious. They're like, "Oh, there should be penalties, draft capital." I'm like, "Funny how you didn't say shit this week because it didn't affect you." I was like, "It's just interesting, right?" Like, very selfish.
Max PF PF
I
everywhere.
in another league where I was in where I noticed that
I'm in that
another
league, Aaron.
Yeah. Well, no, nobody. The guy's done it for like 12 weeks in a row, and nobody fucking complains till it affects them.
Yeah, I noticed that in one of my leagues, 32-team league, Dynasty League, the guy is just not starting like anybody. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I look, it's every week. And I'm like, all right, this guy's starting 0 players. His projected point total is like 32. I was like, we got to do something.
Mahomes on your bench. Exactly. What are we doing?
Is there a way on Sleeper to put people back through the waiver process if they cleared prematurely? I don't know how to do that.
No, I think you just need to commissioner power.
Yeah, you got to manually adjust it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to have like a blind bidding auction for these 3 players.
But anyway, you can't afford not to start any of these wide receivers. Start them all.
Yes.
That's you have to. And the tight ends, you're starting them too. So we're good.
The tight ends, we've got Hawkinson, bad matchup. He's a must start anyways. Kittle, middle of the pack matchup. He's a mid-range tight end one.
You gotta start him.
You have to play them. It's awful, but you have to play them. Like, you can't. Who are you benching them over? Like, who are you going to start over these guys? Like, that's the thing. And I will say Debo's shoulder does worry me, so he's lower in rankings this week because that knocked him out like right away. So we'll see how healthy he is. But like, it's the same thing. Like, you're probably going to play him because
if he's out over him, if he's out or limited, right? Ayuk to the moon. Kittle more likely to get the targets, although he didn't last week, right?
Well, like with Williams' injury, that's the thing that might have him block. So, like, if Williams is still dealing with that ankle injury, then Kittle's going to block, so it's going to limit him a little bit. So I think, like, Ayuk's the one for sure that sees, like, the massive increase in targets.
Of course.
14th best matchup for Jake Moody. I don't mind playing him if you have to. He's a decent option. Middle of the pack for Greg Joseph, who's actually been a decent streamer of late. I could play him as well. The defenses, it's always a great start for the Niners. This week, I don't love the matchup. Like, the Vikings can score. Still probably going to start them. Worst matchup in football for the Vikings. So they are they are probably, if I look at my ranks, they are, what do we got, 26 teams this week? They might be 26th. They are 26th.
I think the only one below them is
in your
the
league.
Patriots defense because they're playing the Bills. But like outside of that, like it's a toss up between those two teams.
No, you know what the funny part is? They're not rostered in any of my leagues with DSTs, but I looked through, and in a lot of those leagues, of the teams on waivers, they are like ranked insanely high. They are like, and it's not. I checked over my one league; they were the DST 7 for scoring this season, and I looked and I'm like, is this a weird settings quirk? They're not. They've been like the 9th highest scoring defense, anywhere between 6 and 12 in every league I'm in, regardless of setting. But they're still terrible, and they're my 26th ranked defense this week. So
I'm
not advocating for playing them. What?
And sacks. Like, I'm looking at the Vikings sacks. Like, they have a ton of sacks and a lot of forced fumbles. Like, I'm surprised.
That's what I mean. They're not. I'm not playing them. Don't get me wrong, but they're a lot higher. I looked and I was like, wow, Carolina's the next highest ranked one this week at 17, and they're like. Minnesota's like 9. I'm not playing them, but it was just
surprising. Well, I mean, their pass rush is pretty good, right? Like Wonum is awesome. On the other side of the ball, I don't know why I'm blanking. You got Hunter, right? Of course, who's all world Hicks in the middle of that defense. So they have players, and they can get after the quarterback. So it's just a matter of the fumbles translate into touchdowns, I guess. But you just can't rely on that.
It's one of those things where they're worse in real life than they are for fantasy, which is funny because I seen the exact opposite. Like Cleveland, I think Cleveland might be the 2nd or 3rd best defense in the league. It's not really translating to fantasy football. You look, they're like 10th or 11th everywhere. In a lot of the leagues, depending on settings, Cleveland is higher scoring right now than Minnesota, which is mind-boggling. But well, anyways, we went kind of long because I rambled and got some personal stuff done. You know how it is, professionalism at its best. So join us again tomorrow for our AFC home game previews. Hopefully it will be better than this mess because these games sucked. All right, this concludes our NFL Week 7 NFC home game fantasy football preview show. For Aaron, Jesse, and Jeremy, thank you for tuning in to the Mad Science Lab podcast. We'll see you again tomorrow.